Hey, Michael Church, Crawl Space Ninja, and today I want to talk about 8 tips that everyone who owns a sump pump needs to know. Stay tuned. Okay, so if you're new to Crawl Space Ninja, we talk about everything related to basements, crawl spaces, attic, and ductwork, so please subscribe to our channel and ring that notifications bell. So whether you're thinking about installing a sump pump or you currently have a sump pump installed, I want to share with you 8 things that we feel like every sump pump owner needs to know, and we're going to start with the basin. Okay, so most sump pump installs that we run across, especially redos, never install a basin. All right, the reason why you have a sump pump basin is to keep the sludge and the dirt and all of that stuff out of the area that the sump pump is housed in order to keep the sump pump cleaner longer. Now, it's impossible to keep the sump pump completely clean. There's always going to get mud and silt and different things like that into the basin. So you want to make sure you have a great basin. Now, this right here, not a great basin. Okay, so we don't recommend this basin. All right, but this is our basement waterproofing basin that we like to install. And then this is our crawl space waterproofing basin that we like to install. Now, this one can also be installed in basements. It's just we typically go a little deeper when we're doing basement waterproofing projects. So that's tip number 1. Make sure your sump pump is housed in a great basin. The second tip for all sump pump owners is to make sure that you install a check valve. What is a check valve? It's a little valve that keeps the water from flowing back into the basin and back into the sump pump. Imagine that you have to push the water 10, 12 feet up and out of your basement or even your crawl space. You don't want all of that water that's in that 1.5 inch or 2 inch line coming back into the basin. It can cause cycling of the sump pump so that it constantly runs forever and ever. So you want to make sure you install a great check valve. Now, these are available on our DIY store just like our basins are. Even if you've already installed your sump pump, you can install the check valve if you don't currently have one. Now, these will actually screw directly into our Flowtech sump pumps, which are available on our DIY store. So if you want to upgrade your current sump pump, make sure you check out the Flowtech sump pump and the check valves. Okay, so the third tip is that you need to make sure that if your basement or your crawl space floods from above, that the water has somewhere to go, which is why we include the Discharge drain in our systems, okay? So if you've got a sump pump basin already installed, whether it's in a basement or a crawl space, make sure you get that Discharge drain. So what this does is it allows water that maybe gets on top of your slab from a plumbing leak or on top of the vapor barrier in the crawl space from a plumbing leak. It gives it the opportunity to make its way into the basin. Remember, you should always seal the basin. Okay, a lot of people, they'll just throw a lid on top and it's like just this horrible looking thing. But if you want it to look nice and make sure soil gases and things like that aren't coming out of the basin, you want to seal the lid to the basin and then install a Discharge drain, which we have available on our DIY store as well. So these are pretty easy to install. You could just use a hole saw to cut it out, install the Discharge drain, and see how it's below the lid. So that way any water can go directly into the Discharge drain, make its way into the sump pump, and then the sump pump divert that flooding out of your basement or your crawl space. The fourth tip I have for you is make sure you install a great battery backup system. Now, we've got the Sump Century battery backup on our DIY store, and the beauty of this product is whether you have a sump pump already installed or you're thinking of installing a new sump pump, this 822 system works with either a currently installed sump pump or a new sump pump. Imagine that you've decided, okay, I need to get a battery backup system. Well, if you go online and get some of those other products, you will actually have to remove your old sump pump and install their dual pump system, okay, which typically uses a less powerful battery backup sump pump. Now, when are you going to need more power? When are you going to need just as much power as any other time during thunderstorms and flooding, when typically the power is going to go off? So why would you want to sacrifice a more powerful sump pump during the time you need it the most? The Sump Century 822 allows you to do that. It takes your current sump pump and switches it from AC to DC, so that way your pump will kick on whether you have power or not. The fifth tip every sump pump owner needs to know about is to make sure you do routine maintenance on your sump pump. Believe it or not, they get sludgy, they get all kinds of bacteria built up and things like that, which can compromise the float switch and even the discharge lines of the sump pump. We got a great video that I'm going to put down below on how to maintenance your sump pump that Pati takes us through, but this is a great product. I'm also going to put a link to it down below. This is a sludge removing product, so you can pour this in to the sump pump and even use it on your condensate pumps for your dehues and your HVAC systems. This really loosens up that zuglia, gets rid of it, and makes sure that pump is functioning properly. So make sure you maintenance your sump pump at least once a year, but every 6 months is probably better. The sixth tip I have for you is never, ever, ever install your sump pump discharge line into your sewer drain line. I've done a few videos about this, even written some articles, and I'll see if I can put that video down below as well. A lot of municipalities will actually fine you if they find out that you've got your sump pump being discharged into their sewer system. It takes a lot of money to process all of that water. So this is the NDS pop-up valve. We put a coupling on it so that we go from the 1.5-inch discharge line from the sump pump and up it to a 3-inch, and then put it directly into the NDS pop-up valve. This is level with the dirt so that you can drive over this, mow over this, whatever you need to do when it's out in the yard. You want to make sure this discharge line is at least 15 feet away from the foundation of the house, okay? Now, another thing you can do is, if you don't want to install something like this, is that you can actually run it into your downspouts if they're ran underground, and you make sure they go to daylight and they're draining properly. So whatever is easier, but just get them out of the sewer system. Make sure that they're put into a discharge that's 15 feet or more away from the foundation, so that that water doesn't roll back in to your sump pump. As I mentioned before, normally you're not going to learn that the sump pump is not working properly until you actually need it, right? Just like during the thunderstorm and the battery backup. So what you want to make sure you do is you use some kind of alarm system, and we make both of these available on our DIY store. This is going to be the most inexpensive feature. What this does, this can be used, by the way, around your toilets, around your washing machine, even in drip pans up in the HVAC system. This little alarm warned me and my family that our condensate pan in our HVAC system in our attic was actually dinging and going off and all that. So this is a great way to find out if you got some kind of moisture problem. Works really well with sump pumps as well. You put this directly on the lid of the basin, and these contacts, when they get wet, it sounds like a fire siren going off, okay? Another thing that you can do, especially maybe if you're a little bit more high tech and things like that, or you got a rental property or something like that, this is what's called the sump pump smart outlet. So your sump pump would go directly in here. This hooks us up to Wi-Fi, and then it warns you that there's a problem. It can either send emails or text messages or however you set this up. This is also available on our DIY store. So this is a great warning system. You need some kind of warning system to make sure that your sump pumps have failed. That's tip number 7. Okay, so before I get into tip number 8, I sure would like it if you would like this video down below. If you found this information useful, please like it down below. And if you feel like I missed a tip, be sure to share that with the viewers down below in the comments as well. Tip number 8, though, the final tip of the day, is going to be to make sure you test the sump pump out on a regular basis. Now, this can be as easy as running a hose in and sticking it in the pit or whatever you need to do. I've gotten a 5-gallon bucket of water. There's a couple of people that recommend you put your hand in and you lift the float switch, which will turn on the pump. The only problem with that is normally your muscles are going to be stronger possibly, so if the float is sticking, you can easily overcome that sticking by lifting it up. So you don't actually know if it's working when water enters the basin. So we like to use water. to actually test the sump pump instead of raising the float switch automatically. So all you have to do is get 5 gallons of water. You can pour it right directly into the sump pump. When it turns on, you know it's working. I'm Michael Church with Crawl Space Ninja. We hope you make it a happy and blessed day, and we'll see you later.